You can ask whatever you like. I remember, I think you asked about beauty. So we don't really have ideas of transcendentals, and um, well, apparently, I mean, there are 6 people still watching. But nobody's. Yeah, I have no idea. Um, Nobody's joined. We don't. So Tiferet, which is translated as beauty, is one of the 10 sphirot, and it's the central one. Um, where do we go? There we go. But um, yeah, we don't have a yeah, and as um, Chazi says, Shecher Hachen Vehevel Hayofi. Um, Beauty can be uh, deceiving and fleeting, and therefore um, it can be a good thing and a beautiful thing, but divorced from everything else that. Funny enough, Tiferet and Emet are considered the same sphere, um, truth and beauty. Um, so, and compassion. Does it play a role in redemption? Kind of. Yeah, I mean, I can't say beauty is not important. It is, but it cannot. It cannot be and should not be um, overly considered important. Shadow, the entire internet is watching you. Like millions and billions of people. And you're like mooning them. Shadow. Stop that. Shadow. You're kind of scary when you're up there. You know that? She likes it up there. What can I tell you? Hello, Rabbi Mullet. How are you doing? I wasn't planning on doing a just chatting stream, but so many people asked that I was like, okay, do it. You are fairer than all men. Your speech is endowed with grace. Greatly has God given you an eternal blessing. I don't know what that's from. Chillin is good. Chillin is very good. Um, Jacob being ashamed on behalf of shameless shadow is very Jacob. Um, so we have uh, actually this time is pretty good for Chezi and Yosef, and we are seeing which Tuesday night, hopefully some Tuesday nights will work for Father Stephen. He hasn't had a chance to schedule it, so that is hoping. Hello, Eric. I don't believe I know you. Ephesians 3:13. So I ask you not to lose heart over what I am suffering for you, which is your glory. And okay. I don't know if I was muted when I said that. I was a dwarf priest. Oh, just to be clear, I was a dwarf priest. So there we go. Ches,
Hello.
hello.
I'm seeing you. I'm not seeing you. I'm seeing you hang out quietly on the screen over there.
Well, I sometimes do that just in case somebody wants to talk to me. They can just drop in.
I got you.
It draws in
And
the people who are very, very afraid to actually talk to me. I'm a
I
scary
mean,
guy.
you are a scary guy. I don't know if you're a scary guy, but you're an intimidating guy. Um, Heading out soon for the day of work.
Yay!
Yay, indeed. But I like these mornings. Wednesday, I start my Shtai Mikra. So usually trying to end it by Friday.
So the Chabad minhag is to do each aliyah on each day of the week.
I mean, I do my double dose is actual Sabbath version. Round one is now. Round two is happening with the community.
Hmm.
Generally speaking, but I'm
And
thinking, yeah,
Targum, do you actually do Targum Onkelos, or what do you do?
yeah. Sometimes like I'll tap into like an Uncleus. I try to keep it just classic Rashi. And there are times that I didn't do Rashi and I just did like other Mefarshin. Um, Uncleus is definitely interesting. He has his own little insights. Now I'm debating whether or not to talk about on Friday. Um, to talk
Elijah
about.
knew before you said that you were that you do Rashi and stuff.
Oh, I do Rashi. I also do Rashi.
Well,
um,
most people do Rashi instead.
this is a classic. I mean, but that I think for many years I was sort of upset. Not upset. I didn't like Rashi. There's these books like "What's Bothering Rashi." I'm like, these are like silly stuff. Like Rashi was very shot. But as I matured, I realized that there's like a very very deep dimension to the pshat many times, and obviously we say and hamikra yotzei pshuto shel mikra, right? But Rashi had a tremendous amount of insight.
Have you ever studied the Rashi Sichas?
No,
The Rebbe's Rashi Sichas? Oh my God! Like they are they are some of the most. They absolutely like.
they're just called sichot haRebbe, like the Rebbe sichas on Rashi.
Um.
I'll
Well,
find it.
so when his mother passed, for the next 5 years, his sichot were on Rashi. Like what's bothering Rashi is actually that comes from the Rebbe's Rashi sichas, but like the one on Leinei Kol Israel, like that just absolutely like floored me. Maybe I'll do that for Gimel Tammuz. Gimel Tammuz, when is Gimel Tammuz? I scheduled.
Yeah,
It's next Tuesday, I think.
correct. I
Yeah.
believe so.
So maybe for Gimel Tammuz, I'll do that. But yeah, the it wasn't until after like I had learned like some Talmud and some Rashi and started like really understanding
Hmm.
like what it means to have a chiddush on Rashi, to understand what it meant that for 5 years every Shabbos the Rebbe had. It wasn't just one or two chiddushim on Rashi. Like he would ask these questions. He would ask two or three questions, and like bring them together so beautifully. Like, yeah, the Rashi Sichas are what really made me a chassid more than anything else.
I think what you just explained also with that he did it for 5 years. I mentioned this in the past. How like my father was very adamant about building relationships with the sages by studying a specific sage for a while, because once you get to know their language, then it's much easier, or for those lucky few, to bring insights. It starts becoming more plausible because you sort of understand their pattern. You understand how they would be talking about things. You can now cross-reference between them, which is very difficult if you're just looking at like an out-of-context Malbim. If you think about like, oh, this really makes sense with all the Malbims. So yeah, it definitely makes sense to build these relationships with the rabbis, the sages. And like, there's that beautiful story about Rav Soloveitchik when he was a child, right? Where he would go to sleep and he would still listen to his father give classes. And if they couldn't explain the Rambam, he would go to sleep sad. And he would talk to the Rambam saying like, we didn't understand you today. Like he had this, clearly he was also a strange child, but very much growing up in that house, his friends were these rabbis. And that allowed him to also build a relationship with them, which also affords you the what's the word I'm looking for? The chutzpah, I guess, to try to innovate. But you're only doing that if you feel like you're amongst friends, right? So that's I think it's important to think about that way. I'm thinking now whether to talk about. I think I'm going to talk about more about what Korach got wrong, like with Korach's like suggestion. But I was also thinking about maybe talking about why were the other people punished, the people that brought the incense, the Torah. And I was thinking about there how we could see a precursor to this with Nadav and Avihu. Right? They sort of like knew what they were doing. They're saying like, listen, we want to take this trip. And even if that means it's not going to end well for us. And even with the crowd over here that comes to Moses, and Moses also tells them, what's the pasuk I just read? V'haya ha'ish asher yivchar Hashem hu kadosh. So Moses tells them like, you guys could all come, and then God will decide who's holy and who's not. But they know that they're coming, and Rashi in its classic form says, "V'lo tipshim hayu shekach etra bahem v'kiblu alehem lekrav." As in, they're not idiots. Moses warned them, said, "Listen, you're right. We all have the potential of holiness, and like we just saw, we were at Sinai. You guys all received prophecy, and we know what happened with Nadav and Avihu, that they received prophecy. So, yeah, in theory, you're right. So if you guys want to play ball, come close, and we'll see what happens." And they come close, and they die. And then the people complain. They said, we were starved and we lost, and like anyone that comes next to the Mishkan dies. And in a certain sense, the correct. And that's why Torah tells us, Ubacharta b'chaim, which is, you're right, the Torah does have dangerous elements to it. And if you decide to go about them, well, this is akin to, let's say, the psychedelic experience, right? Like, you could go see the Great Mother. If you take ayahuasca, you could also lose your rocker. You could also lose your brain. So you should heed the warning, and anyone that gets near the tabernacle might be playing with death. So I'm playing out with that idea already, but I'm not sure if that's the direction I'll go.
So I was listening to Rabbi Breitowitz, and he brought up something that I even considered doing a stream on, which is so Korach says all the people are holy, and Moses responds, Rab lachem b'nei Levi, right? So
with a smile on his face. I imagine that.
What's the kesher, right? How is that relevant? And the fact is that a lot of people who say, "Oh, everybody's holy," right? And Rabbi Breitowitz even talked about anarchists, right? Ultimately, they only say that, right, because they don't like who the leadership is, and ultimately they have an ulterior motive, because there's always a hierarchy, right? And there's always a hierarchy.
That's the other thing I was thinking of talking about, and this alludes to what Elijah was saying over here, not about me being a Zionist, but more about this. Why don't people ever talk about what Korach got right? Which is, first off, if Korach came and said that the whole community is holy, that's a difference between every individual is holy, and Ha'edakdosha, which is the people of Israel, the Knesset of Israel, that is the holy people. That's the holy nation. Individuals have the potential to be holy. That doesn't mean they're born holy off the bat. That's number one. So like he misunderstood also that being holy is an invitation that God is saying, be holy because I'm holy, but that doesn't mean you start off holy. You could build up into being holy, and there's a difference between the community being holy, number one. Number two, Korach comes with a complaint and says, like, all this, this hierarchy is a problem, right? All the power is with you. I'm against hierarchies. I think I'm going to allude this to, let's say, woke ideology and things like that, or the postmodernism, like, all the narratives are the same. And no, there's a hierarchy of narratives, obviously. And what's interesting is the Gemara talks about, and in Pirkei Avot we talk about, en adam she'en lo makom. There's every man has its place, and everything has its hour. And one of the descendants of Korach is Samuel, and Samuel really manifests everything Korach wanted at his time, which means he starts doing the sacrifices, even though he's a Levite and not a priest. He removes the ark and brings it to Shiloh and takes it away from Jerusalem. He stops having people coming to the temple to get their decrees. He goes around the nation of Israel talking to people, really. So he really breaks down the hierarchy. Now, what Korach got wrong is the timing, which is you're right that hierarchies can get corrupted. And when they get corrupted, at some times there needs to be a breakdown of hierarchy. And that's what Samuel did. However, when it's done properly, and definitely during the times of Moses, when you're talking to the big dog, like, don't worry, the hierarchy is set. And that is, in theory, again, like Korach was right, he was wrong with his timing.
Well, I mean, Rabbi Breitowitz said that as well, and he also mentioned Shmuel.
Oh, nice.
But he also talked about Litzchot et HaGeula and trying to make it happen in wrong ways, which is like, Chezi needs to hear this.
Oh yeah, sure. You could say that, like, same thing, that, like, my idea is right, but the timing is off. For sure. I mean, that's part of the discussion, right? The risk I'm taking is too early, and the risk I would claim you're taking is coming too late. And
I don't think there's a risk of being too late.
Of coming too late? I don't know.
Where does it talk about being too late?
I'm just saying, I'm for sure going to say, and I told you so, at the temple, like, gates when you walk in, and you're going to be like, Chezi, I know. I'm like, okay, I'm just saying. I spoke to you about this. I had a special spot for you in front. Other people took it. So you're going to have to hang out with the Noahites in the back.
It's fine. It's fine. I like the Noahites in the back.
They're not in the back. They're not in the back. We spoke to people. We got bleachers. It's going to be fine. Yeah, I mean, I also just, the Torah in general, I think we don't have to say that there is like psychoactive components over there. I just think, to the opinion of people that think that there were psychoactive components, it still is happening within a context, right? Which is like, it's happening in the Torah, in the temple, as a specific time. So again, like, as there's the rise of like this spiritual and psychedelic there's rise of the need of the use of this, or people exploring this idea. So I'm not initially against it. I just think it needs to happen within the context of one's religion, and because again.
Okay, I'm really curious. Is that one of those tzitzit undershirt you're wearing?
No, I daven with a talis on. So I just finished davening. Talis and phylak shoes are off. I'm doing my Shtayim Mikra, and then when I go out for the day, I will put on my talit katan.
I see.
New. You think you're holy already? No, I am definitely. First of all, we all have death and purity. And we all require the red heifer to assist us with that. So that's number one. And the red heifer goes back obviously to the golden calf. There's also elements over there which connect to the Hindu tradition with them having their sacred cow. Right, there's something over there. But I'm not holy yet. We're on a journey, but I do believe, and I'm going to use the term loosely, that God needs us. And by needs us, I mean he is not interested in being the only holy one. He is interested in having a dialogue and a conversation with us. And this also alludes a little to what Jacob was talking about in his comments to Paul's in the recent video you just did, which is, Paul said, everyone knew this about love your neighbor, right? This is the golden rule. The Hillel taught basically love your neighbor, like as he famously says. He ends that sentence by saying zilu gmor, right? Go, and now everything else is commentary, basically. But it's still very important to realize and figure out what is that proper path. And Jacob, this is like I was talking to Mark about yesterday, which is, you come out and call out Jesus, right? Which is fine. And it's a real question, which is, because I wrote to Mark saying,
I call out Jesus? When did I call out Jesus?
Is quantum mechanics kosher? Yeah, of course, quantum mechanics kosher. Quantum mechanics is, again,
all science is kosher. If it's scientific, it's kosher. What's the problem?
Yes, I would just say specifically with quantum mechanics, the superposition and elements like that start bumping up towards like Kabbalistic understandings, right? Or when we talk about, this is a stretch, and we'll come back to calling out Jesus, but let's say time travel, for all intents and purposes, if we look how photons work and light works, so you have time dilation. When we speak about Adam living for 900, well, not 900 years, or he gave 70 years. He gives 70 years to King David, famously. But the Midrash says that he had these garments of light. And, God takes Adam and lets him see from one edge to the universe to the other edge of the universe. And he sees it all in one day. Now, that could just be a Midrash. You could decide to take that into the realm of the scientific and say that these are, things are alluding to that if you look at quantum mechanics that we know today, and you could move faster than the speed of light, then you could experience all things at all times. And when we talk about the Tetragrammaton, or Yud He Vav He, which really means Hayahu Veveyeh, he was, he is, and he will be. And we say, does God know what you're doing right now? God doesn't know what you're doing right now. God is what you're doing right now. He is what you're doing right now. He is what you did then, and he will be what you're doing later, which is obviously hard for us to understand, but he is in all those moments. So it's less about does he know, it's more about that is the full experience. But if you could tap into that, which is called block theory, I think this is really the edge of what I know about these things. So in block theory, it's basically every slice, like you could look at time as a block and not necessarily linear. And every piece you slice, you could go back in time. You could experience that. So either way.
So I'm going to tell, before we go back to Jesus, I'm going to tell my little story about the rabbi. I thought this was the Ben Ish Chai, but it doesn't matter, whoever it was, if it was a person. I remember reading some rabbi who was talking about how somebody came into the synagogue and said, yeah, the scientists have proven that the world is round. And he was really amazed and happy about it because, like, from his understanding of Kabbalah and his understanding of Torah, the earth, of course, had to be round.
Correct.
But everybody around him was constantly saying that the earth is flat, right? And so what he could have done is what a lot of rabbis do nowadays, which is look at the current science and be like, well, if science says it, then let me reinterpret Torah. And like, if everybody tells me the earth is flat, all believe the earth is flat, right? And that's my cautionary tale to the people who take whatever is the scientific view of the day and learn their Torah out of that. I believe you have to keep them separate. Obviously, what science has to say is important, and la halacha, we go according to what science says when it is relevant in any way. That's why you go to a doctor and you ask the doctor like whether or not you should fast on Yom Kippur or not. But I am very, very cautious about reinterpreting midrashim and stuff like that with whatever the latest science is, because science will change and our scientific interpretation, right, might not be exact. And so best to be cautious when you make such reinterpretations of Torah. That's
I would agree with you. And I agree with you. However, that doesn't mean, like, for example, you're right. We shouldn't be going and saying like, oh, like if the scientist said it, then like, you know. So we have this discussion in the past about the young Earth theory, right? As far as like, has it been like, so if, for example, you take time dilation into consideration, I saw somewhere years ago, someone did like an equation where like 13.8 billion years, including time dilation, comes out to be like really 6 days, or that like 900 years of 1,000 years for Adam with time dilation is really like 80 years. So like it's really about the way they were experiencing time was different, but we would call that like 1,000 years. So it would be a mistake to now say like, now, see, look, science and the Torah are one. However, when you look at a midrash like that, I would say for thousands of years, people are like, what does that mean? Right? And I would say that it doesn't mean what I just said it means, but with science today, that allows us to have a potentially a clear understanding or a better understanding of something that might have been known then to our sages, but we are interpreting it now in these terms, just like the Megan Memedris and Carl Jung, right? Carl Jung is saying, he is saying what I'm saying. He predated me, and I'm just using different jargon to explain this, which is more clear sometimes. So here too, obviously I wouldn't claim that is like a scientific fact.
But
I see
ultimately, la halacha, like
yeah,
your ketubah says libriata olam, right? And like if somebody's gonna tell me take the 5,784 years libriata olam off the ketubah, I'm gonna tell them you're crazy, buzz off.
You're right. That doesn't mean that I can't interpret that verse that way. And it doesn't mean, and rabbis that are wise, you don't have to be catering to your crowd, but you also have to know your community and your population, right? So if like it would behoove the Rabbanut to be aware of these things, that let's say they see a couple that's nervous about this stuff, you could decide to answer them and say like, this is what it is, don't challenge it. Or you could come and say like, well, if that makes you nervous, we could talk about this idea for a second, and then
you can talk about it, but guess what? That star better say libriata olam.
I'm with you.
Okay, so like you can apologize and pretend like you're listening to them all you want, but ultimately that star better say libriata olam.
Well, I unfortunately, my ketubah was invalid, which I got a call from the Rabbanut, and then they sent me like a different one. So I have a nice one framed, but it's not kosher. And then I have
what did you do?
The way my name was written, my third name is Halevi.
You and your crazy Halevis.
Right, but it was written in both versions on the ketubah, and they had an issue with that.
You guys,
I remember when I told my dad about this. Like,
just likes to make trouble. He just enjoys making trouble. with his little Halevi Meshugas and not washing Meshugas and like your grandfather sounds a lot like me. I'll tell you.
There was something over here that Rabbi Malot said. Here we go. Chazi, I know it's a late response. I don't study the Zohar. Still working on the Nigle. Okay, that is a fair response, as we say, lemalek karso, right? To fill your stomach, fill your gut with the foundational things you need. And I would agree that people shouldn't dive in. Jacob and I had interacted with someone on Jacob's server who was very gung ho about the Kabbalah, which is so. I guess that's the rub, because I would argue with Rabbi Malot, not that we're arguing that Kabbalic understanding and teaching and Hasidus is downstream from here, which is, I believe that Torah allows you to integrate things much better, and that's why it would make sense to teach that kind of Torah alongside the, let's say, the classic fundamentals, and again with caution. The secret of the deer that I was referring to is I mentioned this on Jonathan's Peugeot's recent post about was eating from the tree, was that like a sin, basically? Is that a mistake or not? And in the secret of the deer, it talks about the deer, which is supposed to be symbolized as Israel, the Knesset of Israel, but also as even like mankind. And it says that the deer is pregnant, but it's very nervous to give birth because of the pain that it needs to go through. So because of that, God summons a snake, and the snake bites the deer. And because the deer is in pain from the bite and is like distracted by it, the baby comes out. And this is, in a certain way, this is alluding to both suffering, but also to the fall itself, which is, unlike, let's say, the Leviathan, the snake is not necessarily a bad thing, right? It was the most cunning. God creates the snake, obviously, and this relates to Jacob's greatest hits about, God creating evil as well. So this is already put into the garden, and the whole concept of even the feminine searching for divine wisdom. We see this in other traditions as well. I gave an example of, let's say, the Oracle of Delphi, right? Her name is Pythia because she cuts the neck of the python and inhales they burn the blood and they inhale the fumes because the python is relating back to the snake. You have in Kundalini Yoga, which relates to the standing prayer. We bow down and 18 of our vertebrae show, and we speak about how you don't stop even if a snake is around your neck, around your ankle. In Kundalini Yoga, you have bowing down, which is the vertebrae are supposed to be like the snake. So there's an element of here, which is they erred, but the snake is offering discernment. And the question is, and the challenge is, without discernment, the drama can't be played out over here. Without the 10 martyrs, without Hananiah ben Chardion calling out God's name, even though his skin is being flayed, and the angels who do not have discernment, they challenge God and they say, how can this be? How can this be that there is this righteous man, this is his Torah and this is his reward? And God responds in a shocking way, silence, right? This is Kachala b'machshavti. This is what I thought.
It was Moshe Rabbeinu, not the angels.
No. That shows up in Hananiah ben Chardion as well. No. About Zot Torah v'Zos Chara? What do you mean Moshe Rabbeinu? He's seeing Hananiah ben Chardion.
You're right. You said the angels ask. It was Moshe who asks.
No, yes. Sorry. By the way, there's a version where the angels ask that. Like what you sing in on Yom Kippur, it's the angels saying it. And the reason I'm using the example of the angels is because they lack that kind of discernment, which is without that, without being able to decide, without Hananiah ben Chardion deciding, even though this pain is happening to me, or famously Rabbi Akiva, right? Finally, I could call out to God's name with all my heart and all my soul. That could only happen if there's the fall. And that is the snake that bites. That is the invitation. So is the snake evil? On a certain way, yes. On a certain way, it's a necessary evil, one that if we realize its necessity, we could then at some point not categorize it as evil anymore. But I digress.
You digress.
And so, the secret of the deer is about Naphtali, the son of Jacob, and Bilhah. Naphtali runs like a deer and gets Judah. Is this false? That's not false. There's levels to the interpretation. Correct. He is Naphtali is known as the deer. Yeah, that's true. There's it just reminded me of a crazy story. I think Jacob knows the story about how Esau's head ends up in the tomb of the patriarchs, right? So there's this argument going on. Forget it, doesn't matter. It just Husham ben Dan, and then Naphtali, he runs because he's very fast. So that's why I was going to mention this. Not Husham ben Dan, I'm saying the Naphtali runs into this. I'll end on one last note, just to throw out a bomb over there. I was looking back at Christian Baxter's conversation about like meta-modernity, and then I saw some of the back and I wrote some comments to what was his name? Patrick Dempsey. What's his name? The meta-modernism guy.
Oh, I don't know.
His name, Beanie Boy.
Brian or.
Anyways, him. So we had a little back and forth about biblical criticism and things like that, but I wasn't gonna like dive to it. I said like there's plenty of evidence. He's like plenty, which ones? And I was like whatever. I don't have to get into this whole conversation. But there is. I'm forgetting the name right now. They do have a and I was curious what he thought about this. They do have this pyramid that dates back to dates back to Joseph's period. There's a huge statue of a guy in there. He has a Semitic haircut. His skin is a different color. He's wearing a coat that still has paint color on it, which is very, very rare. And clearly this is someone that is, and this is during the period of the Hyksos period where the Semites were controlling Egypt. Hyksos is also known as the shepherds, okay, which also, connects very well to Joseph coming down. And in the back of this courtyard where there's like this pyramid, there are 12 tombs. So to me, that's like pretty bonanzas if you have that kind of and of course you have the Tetragrammaton showing up on writings. You have the name Yaakov El, that grouping called Yaakov El, which some people say that was like a tribe. So I don't know. I think there's fascinating evidence out there. I think a lot of these things get.
What does Yosef say about this?
I should ask Yosef about this Joseph guy.
Yeah.
You're right. He is the barometer.
Yosef knows all that is true and false.
So many Semites in Egypt at that time. First of all, you're right, but if you look at some of the war tablets that are being written out, they talk about Israel. They're aware of Israel. They battle Israel. Now, obviously, their claim is that they won, but there's everyone has their own narrative. But you have those things being written out. The dating fits with Ramesses II, more or less, and that also relates also to them building the cities of Pitom and Ramses. The fact that the Torah itself is intimately aware of the terminology and the knowledge over there. The fact that Jacob, the Bible goes into detail saying that Jacob sleeps on a bed as he's dying. They fold up his leg and he sleeps on the bed. And the reason they mention that because Semites didn't sleep on beds. That's technology that happened in Egypt, and that's to point out that it's happening in Egypt. And even when he goes to bury him, they make up this word. He wants to go bury Jacob back in Canaan. He goes to Pharaoh and says, "Listen, my father made me swear to do this, and I have excavated a graveyard for him." We know that's not true, but the reason he mentions I excavated a graveyard because he's aware that Egyptians take that very, very seriously, and the only way Pharaoh's going to let me and my family leave here is if I have some sort of major cultural claim that he himself will not be able to deny. right? So he tells him, listen, Pharaoh, I made an oath and I have my own pyramid that I built my father. So like, money was invested. I dug. So Pharaoh's like, yeah, I get it. Go, do your thing. But all those are hints to the fact that the author or authors, if you want to, of the Bible are clearly aware of what's happening at that time. So, to deny that relationship, I think is a mistake. The fact that there's many Semites, I don't mind going out there saying that there is a group of Semites at the Delta at the time, and there's a group of Semites at Canaan, and they mix together. I'm okay saying that the Levites are an Egyptian crew that comes on later on. So if you want to say that there's Semites that mix up, those are alluded to the Erev Rav, or to the mixed multitude that leave Egypt, right? So there is a sense of other groups joining, and yes, there was a time of salads going on. During Ezra, at some point, we nipped that in the bud. Depends on which dating you subscribe to. I'm with you even there, but let's say the claim of like this is crazy or this is nonsense or the Exodus didn't happen, I think that's a mistake. And I'll give you one more challenge, Elijah. There is a mountain that's called, I forget the name in Arabic, it's the Burnt Mountain in Sinai. And many people recognize that as Mount Sinai because the whole top of the mountain seems to be like singed and burnt off, which is strange. And on the bottom of this mountain, they have there is what would seem like 12, the remnants of not 12 anymore, but marble pillars that we hear that Moses did on the bottom of the mountain. There's the little altar that's built over there that's also still over there in the bottom of the mountain. Now we would ask, okay, Chezi, if that's true, and next to there is the Sea of Reeds, so can we find the Sea of Reeds over there? The answer is yes. There is a section over there that is actually very deep, even though people like to think about like, no, they must have crossed in the most shallow place. Great winds came, and that's why they had suddenly a land bridge was exposed. The Torah talks about a very, very deep place, and it says that the depths of the oceans froze over, and then they were sort of walking on ice, so to speak. But if you go to that place and you dig down, and they sent down boats, guess what they found? Chariots, wheels that have barnacles all over them. Also, people just don't push out this information, but this is very much true, and this exists. So I recommend people taking a look and seeing what you have over there as well. Burnt Martin is a geological reason. It's actually very few access, very far away from where the Exodus happens. Mountain in Saudi Arabia. We'll see. You could go if you want more information about this. I could send you more information about this as well. Just take into consideration that when I said this, I'm only saying this based on, let's say, 38 years worth of thinking about this topic. I'm not just whipping it out right now and throwing it out there. Again, at the very least, it's there to challenge or to allow for a place of doubt within the scientists that are so sure with their theory of biblical criticism and what happened or didn't happen on the ground.
Honestly, I could so care less about any of this stuff.
No wheels, they are reefs. Right, there are reefs that are built like an axle that has a wheel on it that has the same amount of joints that you would have like in an Egyptian period. It could be that. It could just be that. We'll see, I guess. I was going to say we'll never know. We'll know. I give me the biggest evidence is the fact that Jacob and I are talking live here after 3,000 years. So those are those people. Okay, on that end, I return to reality. Jacob, catch you on the flip.
Don't do anything I would do. Hello, Mr. Andrew.
How's it going, Jacob?
Are you driving back from Chick-fil-A?
No, from a friend's house.
You have friends?
I know, right? It's nuts.
Nuts. What's her name?
What's their name?
Her name.
You gotta say that again.
What is her name?
Her name? Oh, yeah. His name's Henry.
What happened to that girl who asked you out in the Chick-fil-A?
Oh yeah.
Drive-thru?
Yeah. You know, she's a little weird. So, like, what
You're
can
a
I
little
say,
weird.
right?
You're very weird.
I'm very weird, but like you know, that's how you know it's bad, right? Like she's weird even to me, you know, like.
Excuses.
You know, I went on a couple of dates with her.
You did go on a couple of dates with her. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if she gets pregnant, you have to marry her.
Okay. I assure you of that.
Okay, let's see if this is an actual human being. I don't know. Is this a human being? Hello?
Good talk.
Well, I mean, if he wanted to porn bomb us, he would have done it already. Maybe he's trying to, like, yep, that's what I thought. Now I have to waste my time going and, like, fixing the porn bomb.
Oh, I think I missed my exit. What can you do? Ryan Center Drive. Okay. I think we're chilling. I actually think we're chilling. You know, driving based on memory sometimes is a good idea, sometimes is a bad idea.
If you say so.
So how's life?
Life is okay. I should be doing homework.
Okay, that ain't good.
How'd your Udon class go?
Oh, you know, it went great. I might squeak out an A. We'll see how it goes.
What was the other class you were taking?
Oh, the other class doesn't start for another, like, 3 weeks. It's engineering writing.
Engineering writing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I thought you, like, took all your G type stuff.
Yeah, it counts as a technical graph or something.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's see. Alright, I gotta pull up my directions.
No, it's a random thing. It's usually pretty easy to weed them out by asking them. It's been such a long time since I had a porn bomber. I didn't bother trying to weed it out, and it didn't really matter. I mean, it's just the two of us on here. It's just gonna be a bother to go and find it and cut it out from the stream tomorrow.
Oh. Yeah.
Well, should I leave this stream on? Yeah, I guess I'll leave it on.
Well, I am starting training to become a PT.
What? Oh, trainer?
Yeah, huh? Oh, I should be making a left here. What can you do? We'll make a left at the next one.
Have you driven home before? Like, is this your first time?
You know, yeah, usually I have the directions pulled up. You know, sometimes.
Hold on. You're going effing home. Like, you shouldn't be getting lost without the directions. Driving home.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, this guy's usually a little. Well, I don't know. This guy's a little out of my area, but like, also I'm geographically challenged.
Apparently. Apparently.
Oh, hey, you should know this. I was the one that was giving you directions on the way to Chino.
Yeah, we've noticed. We've definitely. So, what do you want to talk about?
I don't know, nothing too much. Oh, I don't know. While you guys and Hezi were talking, I was thinking about. I think there's. Maybe I'm misremembering this. Ain't there one part of the Talmud where like there's a Jewish guy who's reciting the Shema while he's like, I don't know, shoveling manure or something, and there's this whole debate of like what
That's
place
not
was.
from the Talmud. That's one of my favorite stories, but it's not from the Talmud.
Okay, where's it from?
It's a Hasidic story. It's a story of the first rabbi of Chabad and two other students of the Maggid of Mezrich.
Hmm.
Do you want me to tell the story again?
Go for it.
So, the Alter Rebbe, who's the founder of Chabad and the youngest student of the Maggid of Mezrich,
Uh-huh.
was walking down the street with Reb Baruch of Medjugorje, who was a close relative of the Baal Shem Tov, and the Rabbi Levi Yitzchak of Berditchev, the Kedushat Levi, was known. So Reb Baruch was known to be a very stern and wealthy man,
Mm-hmm.
and Rabbi Levi Yitzchak was known to be a very kind man. And they were walking down the streets early in the morning, and they see somebody who has his talit and tefillin on, his phylacteries and his prayers all, and he's shoveling muck with one hand and holding his prayer book with the other, and he's saying his prayers while he's shoveling muck. So Reb Baruch of Medjugorje gets very upset because this guy is not showing proper respect to the his prayers and everything else. So Reb Baruch says, if I were God, I would strike the man down where he stands so that people would know to treat holy objects and their prayers with proper attention. And the Kedushat Levi becomes very sad. And he says, if I were God, I would make him fabulously wealthy, and he would never have to interrupt his prayers. He could sit and pray and go to synagogue. And the Alter Rebbe, he says, if I were God, everything would be exactly as it is. So what about that story?
Yeah. You know, I was I think I misremembered the story, but anyhow, I was thinking about it as like they're arguing what place does he have in like the world to come, right? You know, and I was like, well, I guess my place would be driving around a lot or something. I should definitely spend more time just like sitting down and actually doing the prayers and whatnot.
Well, I mean, when are you going to get ordained a deacon?
You know, probably 3 years.
3 years.
Uh-huh.
Why 3 years?
You know, back at St. Mark's, it took me like 3 years to actually get integrated with the community, and everyone was like, "Oh, you should become a deacon." And
You're
I'm
still
not at
going to a
St. Mark's.
Coptic church, right?
I'm still going to a Coptic church, but
So
nobody
why
there
does
wanted
it take you the same number of years
because
after you've been baptized as it did before you were baptized?
I refuse to serve where people do not want me to.
Yeah, so basically you're making excuses. I mean, just admit you're making excuses.
I'm making excuses. I'm not power hungry.
There's no power. Like 5-year-old kids are deacons at your church. Like I saw a 2-year-old still in diapers wearing deacon clothing. Like, get over yourself. Power hungry. There is zero power in being a deacon in a Coptic church. Like literal 6-year-olds. Am I exaggerating? Like literal 6-year-olds are deacons.
Yeah, that's true.
So like they're not even old enough for Mormons to baptize them.
How do I know I have the calling though? You know,
like just do it. Like do it. Like pretend you're like every other 20-year-old at your church. Like, are there any 20-year-olds at the church you're going to who are not deacons?
Yes, but they're probably not friends with me.
Okay, so like all of your friends are deacons. Be normal.
I think it's normal not to be a deacon.
Is it? Are any of your friends not deacons?
Yeah, but like most of my friends are weirdos though.
Be like your friends. Like any 20-year-old who goes to church as much as you do at a Coptic church is a deacon already. Right? I mean, you can stop going to church. That's normal, right?
I don't know, man. I don't want to be a colonizer.
Too late. You are 7'5", Wasian in a Coptic church. You stand out like a sore thumb. You've already like, yeah. So sorry, too late.
I'll talk to my priest about it.
What is? I mean, has your priest mentioned you becoming a deacon?
No. I think priests in general don't talk much about it. I think it's more of a community thing.
Well, I mean, you should be going regularly to confession with the same priest, I hope.
Yep. Yeah, and from what I hear, confession doesn't really happen too regularly with Coptic youth. That's not a good thing.
Like, are the priests like don't come or
No, the priests are chilling.
okay? So like, what's the problem, man?
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know why I brought that up. I had a point there. Yeah. I don't know. My priest.
I thought weekly confession was like normal.
Normative, I would say. You know, it's like it's kind of expected. Whether it happens is less of a thing.
Yeah, plenty of people don't go to confession. Like that's known, but like
Yeah.
you're kind of expected to go every week, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've never been Coptic.
I get you. Yeah. They said it'd be fun. They said. Oh man. Okay. Don't worry. Yeah. I don't know. I really don't know.
I don't either, but I am ending the stream in like 5 minutes.
Okay.
Did you arrive home?
Yeah, I'm home. Don't worry. I made it home safely.
How many hours a week are you working?
I recently cut my hours. Used to be like 40. Now it's like 15.
You'll never make assistant manager if you're working 15 hours.
Yeah, I'm not really trying for assistant manager there. I think I should go with the PT thing. It'll be, from what I've heard, it'll take 2 months and I'll make more pay than if I were to become an assistant manager.
Yeah, I think you could make good money as a personal trainer.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah,
said that to you
okay.
before.
Yeah. Who would have thought? You were right.
I'm always right.
All right. Yeah.
One of these days, I'll learn what it's like to be wrong, and it'll be a new experience.
Yeah. And well, I can say this because nobody will find it. This Chick-fil-A I'm at has like some problems with upper management.
Has some problems with what?
With upper management.
Aha.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not crippling the business, but it is crippling morale.
Okay. I have no idea what you're telling me.
Don't worry.
I am not worried. Like Chick-fil-A going under is not like on my radar as things to be worried about.
I just think it's very funny because I never expected like fast food restaurants to have this type of drama. You know what I mean?
What have I told you about every place you go? You will find
And people there.
that all the people there are human beings wherever you go. And it's
Yeah.
the most disappointing thing in the world. Every single place you go, all the people are going to be human beings.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
shocking, I know.
Yeah. Also, yeah, I think I haven't been involved in drama too much, just as a person. So dipping my toes in is fun.
I mean, it's good not to be someone who causes drama,
Yeah.
but you, like, if you're the type of person who actively avoids drama, you will often end up causing drama
Yeah. Yeah.
because people will realize that drama is a good way of messing with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What can you do?
There are things you can do.
Mm-hmm. So how's the dog? How's the cat?
The dog and cat are good. I am going to end the stream because it's 11 o'clock.